see for November 18th. Our first item is Pines of Georgia Avenue, a concept plan in East County. And if you're ready, Troy, whenever you're ready to start.
So this is a concept plan located a little bit north of the Wheaton downtown district. It's located on Georgia Avenue, at the corner of Georgia Avenue and Parker Avenue. It is coming in for a concept plan for a 16-bed residential care facility. The property is zoned R90. The process will have to go through a conditional use and a preliminary plan. The main highlights for, I guess, in regards of everybody like that, the comments that we received, I think the major things is the dedication that's required for the property. Also the location of the parking lot, and with the R90 zone, lot coverage would be a potential issue once you do the dedication and frontage improvements. I think at this time, I'll turn it over to the applicant to kind of ask any questions that they have in regards of the comments they received and which ones you may want to talk to the different agencies while you have the time.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the time from everyone this morning in the comments. Really helpful for our team to dig in here as we start to prepare our conditional use and preliminary plan applications. We just have a couple of follow-up and items for clarification on the comments we received from this initial review. I think, Troy, you may have mentioned a comment regarding placement of the parking in the building. We were looking at comment 26 on the DRC summary sheet and just wanted to know or better understand where that comment is coming from in the code. Is there a certain requirement we should be looking to for guidance on the parking lot location comment?
So typically, most projects we have the building framing the street, and so parking facilities typically are behind a building. I know you're on a corner lot, and we also showed I think y'all had like a pre-app meeting, and then we showed a scenario where we suggested that parking lot kind of happen in that back corner area. It also helps with providing screening between the building facade and spacing in between the adjacent residential. So it helps with some of those compatibility requirements, justifications that you have to do with the conditional use. But just overall, it's just best practice for what we use in regards of just site design. I think if I don't know if Natasha want to weigh in a little bit more on that, if she's on. I keep saying Tyler can maybe weigh in a little bit more on the design principle in regards to why we would want that parking lot located in the rear.
We also have a quick sketch that we can share on the screen if that would be helpful. I think that was part of our urban design comments. Is this?
Yeah, I think this is a good time. Yeah, we could take a look at those too.
Yeah, I can share really quick. Yeah, so this sketch overall is kind of showing a general building placement with rotating the building 90 degrees to face onto Georgia Avenue, which helps reinforce Georgia Avenue as the major corridor versus Parker Avenue, and does provide a sound barrier from Georgia Avenue to the residential properties. I know this is also kind of like a sort of residential building, but buffering the sound of the traffic from Georgia from the residential houses to the east along Parker Avenue. And then I know that working with this in the limits of the setbacks, this also allows for the parking to be, or the building to be more prominent and the parking to kind of be tucked away and be more private. and provides more activation onto both streets.
I appreciate the explanation here. We had a question just initially looking at this sketch, and just we're concerned a little bit about the building setbacks and dimensions here. Were the setbacks consulted when the sketch was put together? So this would reflect conformance with it generally as to the location of the building and the parking with the setbacks for this site?
So this is more diagrammatic. I mean, this is
Okay.
reflective of the comments that we had in
Yep.
coordination with Transportation and MCDOT regarding different setbacks, partly because it's, deeper setbacks with it being being on a corner lot and the neighboring buildings for also fronting onto Parker requires a deeper setback along Parker Avenue, but this is just diagrammatic of those that require, verification on your side of the site design with setbacks.
Okay,
Right,
and we
and we
have
are-
a couple members of our team here too, just
Yes.
from the engineering group and architecture side. Gina, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
on the phone. Okay,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. I actually dropped something this morning. So if I can share my screen. Let me share my screen. So I have rotated the building 90 degrees to have the front facing the Georgia Avenue. I want to confirm on the setbacks, because that is very critical to us to see like how we can adjust the building footprint to meet the requirement. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me actually turn off the existing stuff, which is confusing. Over here, I have marked up the line over here. This is the area 15 feet away from the property line, which is the area that we need to dedicate it to the public for the right of way. This side on the left hand side is the Wamata right of way. I should let me pull up this one. Where's our record plan? Not this one. Sorry. Where's my record plan? Here we go. Yeah, on the Park Avenue, we already have 15 feet away from the center line to the property line, and then we have gonna add another 15 feet more for the dedication, and we have the 10 feet public utility easement within the 15 feet wide dedication area. So that will be the 15 feet will be the limit of our development. On this side, we have the Wamata right away over here. So this is 20 feet away from the property line. That will be the area that we cannot touch. So go back to here. If we rotated the building, so our thinking is the front side setback will be along the Georgia Avenue, and on the east side, west side will be the north side. Sorry, my bad. The north side will be the considered as side setback. So if I pull up the zoning requirement for R90. Oops. There we go. Yep. So front back setback required is 30 feet minimum. So I have 30 feet labeled over here as the yellow line. And then I want to confirm that we can have only 8 feet as the side setback. If it is okay, that will be much better for us to put the building inside. And if we consider the here on the right hand side as the rear, then we can have 25 feet over here. Yeah, the one more thing to confirm is the little like twisted shape over here. This is the current thick line over here is the LD line, which is also the property line. Over here you can see it's matching with the record plat. But if we need to meet the setback, street, where is it? Street setback. Street side setback, which is 30 feet. Yeah, 30 feet, then it will be very challenging for us because it's twisted back and we lost a little corner over here, which is very, very important for building layout. If we can, use this side along the Parker Avenue as the limit and then twist it back as a straight line, that would be very beneficial for us. You can see the original building footprint is already very close to the limit over here. So that is the two things that we want to confirm on the setback.
This is Amy with DPS zoning. The side setback on the north, yes, you can have the minimum 8 feet. But what is problematic is on the Parker Avenue side. This is a new building. New building for that setback requirement from the street right of way requires established building line calculation. For this calculation need to include all the buildings on this side of the street facing Parker Avenue within 300 feet. A survey need to be done and the average calculation need to be performed by a surveyor or civil engineer to determine what's the minimum required setback from Parker Avenue street right of way. So it's not 30 feet per R60, R990. It could be even more, depend on the existing house locations on that street.
Okay, the existing houses is located basically
No,
over
not
here.
this house, not the
I know.
subject property, yeah.
Yes, along the street, and you can see relatively they're like this is the existing house over here, and they're relatively at the same horizontal line. This one might be slightly bigger, but yeah, in general they're very close to each other. And the tricky thing for this project is this house originally is accessed through the access to the Georgia Avenue instead of the Parker Avenue. So the front will be on this side. Now the side setback, and this house you can see is all the houses along the Parker Avenue is facing to the Parker Avenue.
Yeah, can we go back to your drawing, please?
Sure.
The existing house, this is a corner lot. Because of the location of the existing house, even though maybe the front door is facing Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
zoning wise, we still look at Parker Avenue as the front because the property line opposite Georgia Avenue right away, you don't have enough room for a rear yard. So that's the side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we determine where is front and where is rear. Because of the location of the existing house, Parker Avenue, even just look at it as the existing situation. Parker is the front.
I see. Okay. Okay, so the Georgia side will
Sorry,
consider
this is the
side.
applicant. My name is Nafisa. I don't know if I'm missing a point, but then the existing structure, the front of the building is facing Georgia. It's not on Parker. It was in our initial conversations that Parker being the front was suggested to us, and we looked into it. But the existing building, unless there's something I'm not understanding, the Georgia Avenue is the front of the building.
Again, zoning wise, we don't care where the address is. We don't care where your front door is. We look at whether the property, the corner property has enough room where you have the rear yard. Is the rear yard location determine where your front is? Because of the existing house is located at that location, only the property line opposite Parker, on that side, you have enough room to be a rear yard. So that's why for existing house, the Parker is the front. But since you're removing the existing house, we're talking about the new building, you're going to face Georgia, that will be your front, that's fine. All I'm saying is, for the proposed building, the building setback from Parker Avenue requires established building line calculation. And that calculation need to include all the buildings facing Parker, 300 feet on that same side of street, and need to be done by a surveyor and civil engineer.
Yes, we'll do that and calculate the limit that we can use. Yeah, hopefully it's something good. Amy, do you have like some in general idea how that if it is something close to the existing building limit over here, then it's gonna be very challenge for us to fit in the building. You can see the shape of the building is like this.
Yeah, if that's
this
the
side.
case, and if you still want to move forward with with this building design, then a variance is required.
Okay, can you elaborate more on the variance that we can use?
A variance is like you can deviate from the zoning code requirement. Let's say the established building line calculation requires you have to provide 40 feet, and the design is you only have 15. So that means you need to get 25 feet variance, and variance is only granted by Board of Appeals. And without that variance, without that variance granted by the board, zoning cannot approve your building permit application. And that will be also, I think, when you go through conditional use, at the same time, you can apply for a variance. That's my understanding, but park and planning,
you
the
can.
staff, they can, yeah, okay.
We'll evaluate if with this design, if the variance would be necessary as part of the conditional use review, but appreciate the comments on kind of the zoning relief that could be applicable there.
Yeah.
Gina, did you have any other questions based on the design comments that we received?
Yeah, I have another question to confirm. So, we do have the Walmart right away over here, which in general we should not touch. But we do have an inlet on the Georgia Avenue downstream, and it's very good for us to use that if possible. So, is there any way that we can, is there any sort of like variance that or something that we can get the use to this area slightly somehow, like, or even some slight grading that would be helpful, because we kind of like cut off 20 feet wide stripe, like a stripe over here.
You looking to access the WSSC easement? Is that what you're asking for? Or to put a facility in the WW?
I don't think the facility will be possible, but I'm thinking if with this layout we can think more, but if I can fit in like a swell over here and then have the downstream drainage connection to this inlet, that will be helpful. Otherwise I have to count for the infiltration to let the stormwater going down to the underground.
Yeah, this is Mark Etheridge with Stormwater. I can help you a little bit on this. A lot of what you're asking is going to have to be answered by District 3 for SHA, because you're going into the SHA right of way. So you need to talk to those people if you haven't already. Get with them as soon as you can, because you may or may not be aware any increase in runoff into their right of way is going to require, for their standards, a lot of control that we don't require in Montgomery County. So it's going to have an impact to you. Anyway, permission to connect to that inlet or to add runoff into the state right away is going to be something to talk to the SHA guys about. You're right, you can't put a facility that is bisected by that line. That's correct. So whatever you do is going to have to be on the site for stormwater management, on the site and clear of any kind of impediment like that. It's going to be tight.
Right. It's really tight to fit something like originally I have the microbar retention over here. Clearly, it's not gonna work.
Right.
Yeah, because this law you can see based on the grading, basically all the water gonna drain to the SHA right away.
Mm-hmm.
The Georgia Avenue.
Start talking to SHA now so you see what kind of impacts you're going to be dealing with from them. Those are going to be their impacts. You may have to do some controls in the state right of way to their standards, in addition to what you do on site. On site, you can look at things depending on your geography, your geology. You're going to have to do infiltration testing, of course. You have to look at some green roof, look at some permeable paving, look at those kinds of things. Look at dry wells and other kinds of avenues, rain gardens, that kind of thing.
Yes, I really appreciate that.
Sure.
The other thing that we got a comment saying there's a gas facility within the lot, and there's a link that we can look for the GIS map. Unfortunately, we don't have the access now. We applied for the account, but we didn't get access now. So if anyone know like where in general that Washington gas facility is, or line that, we basically want to figure out where is the limit that we can do the development. I forgot which comment that is.
I think it was comment 27. But it was made by, Washington Gas. So we just need, if there's a way to get into the portal for mapping purposes, just so we can determine, where the lines are and the facilities are on the site, that would be great. I don't know if anyone from Washington Gas is on the line. Not. So we'll link up with the contact that's provided on the DRC comment sheet for that. We had another question for SHA related to comment 14. There's a note about a permit being required for the closure of the existing driveway along Georgia and converting that driveway into a sidewalk. Do you have any context, or just can you elaborate on what type of permit that is?
Yeah, good morning. This is Quasi Woodruff with SHA. So once you close driveways, you basically need an access permit, even though you're closing the access to close that existing driveway.
So it's still an access permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would just be basically curb and gutter sidewalk that's replacing the driveway.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question for fire and rescue. There was a couple of comments about a turnaround on Parker Avenue. Was just hoping that we could kind of detail what location we're looking at specifically on Parker for that turnaround.
So I don't know if you remember, I sent an email earlier this week. The speed limit in this area of Georgia Avenue is 35 miles per hour. So
Right.
you actually have the ability to use a pull-in back-out turnaround without having one further down Parker. I do want to throw out the fact that you're trying to rotate this building. Your main lobby door can still be no farther than 50 feet from edge of truck access, and you must still provide 15-foot clear and walkable grade along all exposed exterior walls. So keep that in mind. Given this layout, it appears that you might need to turn apparatus into the site, which would then require a 35-foot wide driveway apron. So just keep that in mind.
It's very difficult to do that because the lot area is really limited. We have the good thing is we have a fire hydrant existing fire hydrant somewhere over here, and there's another one. Hello, can you hear me?
You're back.
Oh, okay. Somehow I lost the connection.
I wondered if it was me.
Maybe it's just anyway. You can see over here. I'm still sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is our lot, and we have a fire hydrant over here and the fire hydrant over here.
Okay, so hang on. Because you have a median in this roadway, the fire hydrant to the north is actually not going to help you. So it's only going to be the hydrant to the south on on Georgia as you turn into Parker. But if you're building a sprinkler, your fire department connection can be no farther than 100 feet, measures the firefighter walks. So again, rotating this, and your FDC must be located at the lobby door. So you can't put the FDC down along Parker if your lobby door is going to be most of the way up the site. So you might need to change your architecture along with rotating the building.
I see. Okay.
Just I'm happy to have conversations offline, but keep this in mind as you proceed with your design.
Yeah, really appreciate it. After we settle the building layout, we probably gonna confirm with you again on on something. Yeah, but thank you.
Thank you. We had a couple of questions too for transportation, if Carlos is there.
Hi there.
Hey, Carlos. Looking at comment 21, there is a comment related to truncation. Just wanted to confirm if this was a comment that's instructive or based on the plans. Specifically, do our plans confirm with what this comment is advising
Well,
today, or is this?
Your radius is above our truncation threshold, so it's 30-foot circumference. We wanted to make sure it's down to 25 feet.
Needs to be at 25.
Yeah, and you need to make sure to demonstrate on your plans as well. So are you sharing something?
Yeah, I'm not trying to share anything. I'm trying to
Okay.
mark it out
Yeah.
myself somewhere.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat online. Also because it will likely change a little bit of that corner configuration a little bit. And there's a few master plan facilities that need to be accommodated for all of that to work out, including the side path.
Yeah, we could link up offline, Carlos, to talk through that one. We had another comment too, or question on comment 24, regarding reducing impervious surface along Parker and incorporating some ADA parking. So we originally were just proposing parking at this location. Obviously, we've revised the layout a bit here based on design comments, but was there something specific you were looking for along the Parker frontage?
Well, we do require at least one ADA parking space in facilities. That's part of our ProWAG incentives and also our accessibility standards. So if you could include one accessible parking space in the adjusted parking lot, that would be sufficient. And if you move the parking lot to that location, that effectively addresses the impervious surface concern that we had. We just didn't want to have a lot of the impervious surfacing on that frontage on Parker Avenue. We want to ideally have enough space for the pedestrian frontage and also the environmental frontage.
Understood.
We had just another question on parking. This one's actually for county transportation. This was comment 29, sub comment 4. Just a comment related to visitor and staff parking. We don't anticipate that this facility will have a significant amount of staff or visitor parking. Are visitors really necessary? So just wanted to get some clarification on what this comment is based on.
Yeah, this is Deepak with DOT for the record. So basically, I wasn't sure looking at that the initial layout if there was enough parking for staff as well as visitors in there. So I just would defer to parking planning for the on-site parking. Just want to make sure there's enough parking for people to be within the facility rather than parking in the street.
Yeah, I would suggest, so if I can just jump in, Deepak, I would suggest just reviewing the parking ratio. I don't remember from the top of my head on this specific parcel, but I would associate and adjust based on the ratio that's available in the parcel. Also, when you submit your LATR scoping form, make sure to include. I know you're not expecting a lot of staff, but make sure to separate staff and resident parking as well when you start doing your trip counts.
Will do.
Coming up on the time, if there's, I guess, additional stuff, you have, I guess, the comments and the context. If you have any, I guess, concerns on the next step of the process, I mean, I'll be your point person, at least for the concept plan, and then you can let me know as you proceed for to go, if you're going forward or if you have issues or questions about these comments, or having issues contacting somebody, you can contact me as well.
Great. Thank you all so much for your time and review on this one, and we'll be in touch on some additional follow-up.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
This is item 2 for DRC today. Concept plan in East County, and Tamika, when you're ready, you can start.
Sure. Hi, good morning, everyone. Just pulling up the plan. So we have a frame of reference as we have this conversation. Thank you so much for submitting the concept plan. We hope that it was valuable for us. We certainly appreciate having a little bit of a head start on addressing some of the issues with the project. This is a meeting for you all, but before we turn it over to you, we usually just try to highlight some of our major comments that we laid out, and hopefully that can sort of frame our discussion, but you're also welcome to ask any questions that you have for us today. Just generally from a zoning perspective, I just wanted to touch on the dwellings can be used for the proposed religious use. Just wanted to confirm that it's permitted within the rural cluster zone. But I think what you probably saw from agency's comments that substantial changes would need to be made to get approval from a multitude of agencies. I'll summarize our comments first in terms of like process, what you would do next, just clarifying the proposal, environmental compliance, transportation, and a more efficient site layout, as well as urban design. So just in terms of process, I just want to first point out that it's our recommendation to address any outstanding violations that you have on the property. That's sort of first and foremost. Once you do that, to move forward with your proposal, you would need to submit a preliminary plan, including a lighting and landscaping plan as part of that. You'd also need to follow up with your NRI FSD with a forest conservation plan. You would need to include a variance request explaining all of those tree impacts that you have. You'll also need a stormwater management concept plan, and you also need fire access and water supply plan for commercial use. But we do suggest that you coordinate with DPS well and septic first about feasibility. So a lot of things that need to sort of happen in those next steps. So the second sort of issue is as you move forward with this proposal, we recommend in your application that you get way more specific with the existing conditions and the proposal. So earlier on in our review, I did send out some questions just that folks had as we were looking at your concept. So when you come back in, we would want those questions answered. I'm not going to go through all of them, just in the interest of time, but some of them were about, you know, what you're proposing with the parsonage and the church and that current structure, just some things that we really needed to understand to make sure that our comments were concise to your situation. With the environmental, this site, you're really faced with some challenges, you know, as you know, with your plan that you submitted. We do have your NRI on file, but because we have not approved it yet, we can't say for sure that these boundaries, you know, would remain in place. So we would want to reserve our right to comment on that once those environmental boundaries are confirmed. You also have a 10% impervious cap. So with your application, you would need to submit an exhibit showing us those calculations to make sure that you don't exceed the maximum. Now, here's where a lot of the challenges come in with environmental constraints. You do have a minimum of a 200-foot setback from all tributaries. And so any new septic fields have to be placed 200 feet away from the stream buffer. And you can go back to the review, environmental reviewers' comments to get more about that. The site also has high priority forests, so there are additional findings that we have to go through. You need to make a strong case about, you know, why you would be disrupting the forest. And then you also have tree canopy requirements because of the quantity of parking that you're proposing. So there's a lot of demand being placed, obviously, on this 5-acre site. In terms of transportation, this is a rustic road. You don't have any frontage improvements, but we do expect to have some dedication that will be required from your application. We had some questions about the access points on your property. We would really like to see them consolidated. We would also like to see a more efficient parking layout. We can look into some more of our comments there. Also, because this is a commercial use, we would ideally like to see parking less prominent, but we do understand that you are trying to work with, the existing footprint of the building. So, but nevertheless, we would still like to see the design of the parking moving away from that horseshoe style, the design that you have. And just to quickly wrap up, we did upload, hopefully you had a chance to see it. We uploaded some urban design and architectural comments. So they're in e-plans, they're separate from the general list of comments. And we just made some suggestions about how to maximize gathering areas for patrons coming to the site. We also made some comments about the proposed architecture of the two buildings and how they could relate better to the street. So right now you're kind of have blank walls facing, Dustin Road. So we'll be looking at details like that. But those are just like our high level comments, and we'll just turn it over to you. Hopefully that was helpful to you for your next steps.
It's understood.
Okay. Oh,
Well received.
Oh, okay. Okay, well,
So, Ariel, environmental planner. So some of the structures that will need to be pushed up because we have the transition area that it's 100 feet away from the buffers. Again, the buffers are not confirmed yet. After you have a natural resource inventory, we might be able to say, this is the proper location for the structures. And you will have to reach out to DPS regarding where you can locate your septic field, septic tanks, because they need to be away from the buffers and outside of the transition area. So that's basically what we are looking for. Yeah.
yeah, again, this is your meeting. It's for the applicants to, get whatever you need as you have various agencies here. We also have a bunch of agencies on the call. So if you had any, things that you wanted to clarify from their comments, we have folks in the room to assist you.
That's well received, well written, and no comments at this time.
If you need translation, I hablo español también, so if you need any questions, happy to.
Oh, yeah, so, that's my father, and, he was saying if you like to, translate what you, previously said, regarding, that, things like that.
Yeah, I will try to do it two different languages. La primera es que ustedes tienen un lugar que está muy comprometido en términos ambientales, so the site is very environmental compromise. Y es porque tienen humedales y tienen un riachuelo están protegidos no solamente por la ley, sino también por el master plan. So you currently have a wetland and streams and buffers. So those are basically protected by the law and by the master plan. Entonces, cuando usted quiere hacer esas dos estructuras, hay un cierto distanciamiento que tiene que desde la zona de amortiguamiento y luego en la zona de transición. Esa zona de transición no le permite construir las fosas sépticas porque se pueden contaminar los humedales y el riachuelo. So there's a buffer here for wetlands and streams, but also there is the transition zone that we need to protect. So basically all the structures, including septic field, they need to be outside of the transition zone. En la otra parte es que también usted tiene una parte de bosque que se considera prioridad para retenerlo. porque está asociado con con las humedales y eso nos asegura la calidad de agua de la comunidad. Entonces hay que mantenerlo afuera, evitar cortarlo, ¿verdad? Usted lo puede cortar siempre y cuando cumpla los requisitos que les comentamos aquí. So the other part is that you do have high priority forest for retention. So for you to move forward to remove any forest, there's certain things that you need to comply with the forest conservation law. Hay unos cambios que tienen que hacer con respecto al parqueo y el transporte. Entonces tienen que hacer una reunión aparte con el sistema de transporte. So you also have some comments regarding transportation. You have to reach out to transportation. La otra es que en el estacionamiento ustedes están proporcionando más de 10 espacios y eso les indica que tienen que proveer 25% de cobertura con árboles. So regarding parking, because you're providing more than 10 spots, therefore you have to provide 25% green canopy on that. Y
La diferencia es que donde están los parqueos no hay árboles.
sí, pero es que es cuando los aplicantes vienen por un desarrollo nuevo, como esos espacios no están creados, pero usted lo está creando, entonces eso lo obliga a usted a proveer ese 25% de. So he basically asked, like, there's no canopy cover already in the parking area, but then I explained to him that, it's when you come with a new development and you're providing 10 or more, you basically have to comply with the code. Any other thing that I'm missing? So he requests, like the whole translation of.
Yeah, oh, good, yeah, perfect, thank you. We usually just send a brief memo, just summarizing, again, just our main comments, just so you have them.
Y le vamos a estar enviando una nota oficial donde dice cada aspecto que ustedes tienen que corregir en la próxima stage.
If we've talked about before, you're welcome if you want to send apply with a new concept plan, if you want to go through this process again, because I know there were a lot of feedback that you got. If you feel like you got what you needed and you're ready to move forward, we can talk to you about what application type makes sense. I think it potentially would be either an administrative subject or I think maybe a preliminary plan in this case. So, but we're happy to walk you through that process. Tamika is your point of contact.
Ustedes pueden regresar con este mismo estilo de plan porque es gratis y ustedes reciben las recomendaciones de todas las otras agencias y de nosotros. Entonces es más fácil que la siguiente parte del proceso sea más fácil. Entonces les recomendamos que hagan eso si quieren. Ahorita es la oportunidad que tienen para hacer preguntas. ¿Qué quieren?
Con respecto a la fosa séptica que dijo que está un poco cerca de las humedales. Bueno, ustedes tienen las medidas, cuánto está de las humedales, la parte marcada, porque está lejos.
Sí, pero si usted, so he was asking like about the septic field and septic tanks, like if we can kind of like estimate based on the plan that they provide. But again, we need to see the buffers being confirmed by the natural resource inventory, and we need to see the transition zone first, and then we can comment about. Ahora no podemos hacer una estimación porque ustedes tienen que tener un plan que se llama un inventario de recursos naturales, que nosotros lo confirmamos. Nosotros vamos al campo y hacemos mediciones y todo eso. Entonces delineamos la zona de amortiguamiento. La zona de amortiguamiento es una zona de protección. Encima de eso, usted tiene otro requisito que cumplir, que es una zona de transición. Entonces, una vez que se confirma la zona buffer, ahí dice SB, usted ve como unas líneas rectas, esa es la zona de amortiguamiento del stream, del riachuelo. Aparte de eso, usted tiene que sumar de 100 pies adelante, que usted no puede construir esas septic fields. Usted puede construir aparentemente otras estructuras, pero no septic fields, porque no queremos que eso contamine los So I just told him, like, after they have the natural resource inventory approved, We will confirm the stream buffer and we will confirm the transition zone. And then we'll be able to provide feedback regarding safety fields or the tree taxing.
You know what the next steps are, for you on this process?
Complete the NRI plan.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's fine.
I don't personally have questions.
Thank you, and you have our contact information, so we'll be looking forward to working with you soon.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you very much.
The third and last item for DRC today is Poplar Grove in Upper County. It's a site plan, preliminary plan, sketch plan, and forest conservation plan. And whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Neil. Good morning, everyone. Just going to highlight some of the major comments and then we can go to the applicant. First one is just the stormwater concept plan is needed. Some comments from DOT and transportation. The request to abandon the right of way will need a formal application. They need a justification for private roads. The site distance storm drain road grade plans are incomplete, and DOT is indicating a 250 space reservation for park and ride is required. There are a number of comments from fire and rescue that are really interrelated to the overall block design, the street network, and urban design, perhaps even some historic preservation comments. So that might be the best place to start, and I'll just turn it back over to the applicant.
Good morning, everybody. Aaron Gerard with Lurch Shirley on behalf of the applicant. We have the development team here as well. I'm fine starting there with fire. One of the things we were going to bring up was the turning radii, which is, how that relates. I know planning staff wants it to be different than perhaps the fire marshal does, and that may be different than what we need for trucks. So Kevin, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that how we're supposed to do these protected intersections, because I keep getting different methodologies. So on different plans that I've submitted, the majority of them seem to be with a 3-inch mountable curb at the 10 or 15 foot radius, backed up by another 3-inch vertical curve at the 25 foot radius. And then it's concrete in between. I just want to make sure that that's what the standard is, because I've gotten multiple versions from agencies that are in conflict with that. So, I mean, who's the ultimate person who makes a decision on what that looks like?
I can start. This is Justine with the Transportation Planning Division, and then Marie can chime in when and then either confirm or talk a little bit more about this. So we made the comment alongside MCDOT that in areas where you cannot achieve a tighter curve radii, to explore the possibility to include mountable truck aprons to comply with section 4932F of the county code. And that's something that I believe that fire and rescue will be okay with, as long as it's a mountable truck apron. So I'll let Marie talk now.
My only issue with truck aprons is when they are shared with pedestrian access. So if your crosswalks go over them, probably going to have an issue with that. But if your crosswalks go around them, then I do not have a problem with truck aprons at the corners.
Right. Well, the crosswalks would have to go over them.
So that creates a direct shared space between pedestrians and trucks. That's a issue, especially with density like this. So I think this is probably a conversation that needs to come offline if planning has strong feelings about that. But yeah, I'm not big on putting those crosswalks across the truck aprons.
Can we point out just one? I'm sorry, Marie. I'm sorry.
I was going to say we run into issues with disabled users.
Yeah.
Can we point out just one area where this is the issue?
Any of the intersections of the public streets.
All of them?
All of them. They're all designed with a 25 foot radius.
But it is my understanding that if you do a grade level pedestrian crossings, you will not have that issue.
But these are public streets. I'm not going to have you're not going to go up to sidewalk level at a public intersection.
So particularly the ones on Century Boulevard, the three entrances to the major streets, you can see how the crosswalks are right in the right of way and in line with the 25-foot radius.
Yeah, what's gonna happen is, Kevin, just for your information, the way we go around this situation is we put the detectable warning surface behind the standard curb, which is a 6 inches curb, by the way, not a 3 inch. One is 3 inches, which is at the smaller radius. And also, as you mentioned, the intersection of public roads do not have adequate crossing. Only for driveways we do that. So with that, I think we should be okay with fire and rescue for crossing the fire truck.
I'm gonna need to see a detail. I'm a little concerned with, so we definitely want to do the detectable warning strip behind the standard curb, but then I have a concern that we're gonna startle people with the additional 3-inch drop off of the mountable truck apron. So I don't know how we want to try and resolve that.
Marie, the only reason we have that truck apron is to slow down the vehicles for the turn, and that's it.
This is Rebecca. I'm sorry, I'm coming into this a little late. Can you zoom into that one intersection you're looking at right now?
The same intersection?
Yeah, the one that you're looking at right now. No, so that one's okay. So I don't understand what the issue is. There's a 25-foot radius. For this particular one, there's something in the middle, which I would say creates a problem for fire and should just be removed.
Yeah, I second that.
Just create a normal entrance out. The other ones, DOT has a standard of 25-foot radius. Marie, does that work for you if there's nothing in the middle?
Absolutely. I don't know why we're trying to bring this down to 15, but I wasn't going to argue with planning.
Right. So we have 2 lanes of traffic, and our old standard was 20. Our standard is 25 unless you have more than 2 lanes of traffic. And so 25 is acceptable to DOT. I'm not sure where somebody is, like Deepak. I know Deepak's on. Am I right? For a standard driveway or standard intersection.
What coming in? Sorry, I didn't.
I know. It's 25-foot radius on our streets are acceptable to us, correct? 2 lanes?
Yeah, as long as it's fire compliant.
Yeah, it wasn't one of our comments either, Rebecca. So
I'm sorry?
it was not one of our comments either. So I'm not.
So DOT is acceptable to the 25-foot radius.
This is an area transportation comment.
Right. But DOT, I'm going to pull my lead agency card. And at this point, we can have a further conversation with planning staff, but DOT says 25-foot radius. If it would be different if you had multiple lanes, but you don't. You only have 1 lane in each direction. And I thought,
Rebecca, I think we should take this conversation in a follow-up work session.
Right. But again, lead agency, we need to discuss lead agency and anyways.
Understood. Yeah, I think we just need to have a follow-up conversation on this item.
Yeah, if removing the island is okay, I think, and then we can work through the other issues. I don't think that we have a major issue.
So just to be clear, the follow-up, is that your internal follow-up and someone will let us know? I'm not sure we necessarily care. We just need direction as to what we're putting on the plans.
We can follow up internally and get back to you. It does seem like we're probably likely going to have a work session to talk about transportation issues, but yeah, we need to talk internally and then get back to you.
Okay.
I mean, this is like the minutia stuff that we shouldn't, there's other issues out here that I think that need more follow-up than this.
Okay. Yeah, and I should have started with that. I mean, there were a lot of details about cross sections and transitioning of the shared use into the sidewalk. We're saving those for follow-up. I don't think we need the whole group on this. So, Dewberry will follow up directly with Justine and whoever else is appropriate there. But a couple other things we wanted to hit on. There was a comment about no parking on Kinster, and it didn't really explain why. So, I mean, there were other comments about where, on-site parking might not be appropriate, but just the blanket comment about it not being appropriate on Kinster. Can someone explain that?
It's, Rebecca, is Brenda on the call?
No, she's not, but so
Yes, so I think the main problem is that we didn't have site distance forms submitted for these intersections. And so we thought that it was gonna be conflicting with site distance, so I think it's mainly about that. I don't know if you have any comments, Rebecca, any other comments?
yeah, I mean, but I know we talked about Century, and then I mean, to me, Aaron, like fire needs to be discussed.
Well, I didn't have anything on Kinster. I was on Century Boulevard because of the occupancy type.
Yeah.
I don't know what the issue was on. Where is Kinster? I don't even know what that is.
Kinster is the middle entrance into the site.
Oh, yeah, no, okay.
When
I don't
we were-
recall.
Yeah,
'Cause
when we were
Your
just looking
building
at.
bump out parking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
So-
that was not mine. I'm gonna back away.
Yeah.
Okay, but it sounds like Rebecca and Marie, we need to discuss fire on Century. Is that the one you wanted to hit, Rebecca?
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's lots of fire. I mean, in general, I think that fire department needs to be complied with, and then we can figure out
yeah,
other things.
I seem
That
to
was
be,
my
I have a lot of comments. So this is a new record for me. I've never made this many comments on a plan before going to DRC. And one of them, of course, is Century. As of right now, because of the development type you're proposing facing Century, it would remove all the parking without any more information or modifications proposed. So that's probably going to be a community issue. But there's a lot of stuff that I think we probably need to look at for fire department access before other things fall into place.
Understood.
Yep, we'll make that a priority.
Yeah, we had planned that there would not be parking on Century because of right now it's striped off for 2 lanes and it's no parking for overnight. And there's no, I mean, I'm not sure why originally, I believe it was no parking period. And I'm not sure when it was changed to just overnight or why.
Okay, well, this development would remove that 24 hours.
Right.
So
Right.
yep.
And that was always our understanding because that's the way it was previously.
Okay, that's
Okay.
just one piece.
Are there any others we should discuss now, Marie, that you think are should be discussed in this forum, or should we just be following up with you separately?
I think the one that's really going to change things is it doesn't appear that you're okay. So in 2019, it was agreed with the fire department that you could do 50 feet to the rear and 150 feet to the front door of 4-story townhouses. You appear to be proposing 2/2s for the vast majority of your development. And if that's the case, you are stuck with a 50 foot to the front door. But where you can, it might be worth looking at rear access with longer front door walking access. So truck access to the rear, walk-in access to the front. I don't know if that would clean up any of the access, kind of like toward the middle green space, the units just to the west of those. I didn't know if that would help clean up or not, or if everything is 2/2s. But that's something that hopefully can help you clean this up a little, maybe.
Marie, is there a difference between a 2/2 and a 4-story townhome?
Hazard. I have a unit directly underneath, so when I have superimposed parts of dwelling units, it becomes a higher hazard to the neighbor above, just like a multifamily or an apartment complex.
We'll go ahead and
Okay.
take another look at making sure we have the
Yeah.
50 foot. I think we thought we did, but we'll double check.
Well, you have 50 feet to the
There-
front door of everything right now. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is where you have 4-story towns, if you have 4-story towns, you can use the alleys as 50 foot to the rear facing wall and then extend the walking distance to the front door up to 150 feet. That, again, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that might help with some of this, but if
Yeah,
you're not proposing any 4-story towns.
But
Yeah,
the
unfortunately, we
distance
can't.
between buildings.
Yeah, we can't make the space down the alleyway.
Got it. Okay,
Separate.
understood.
There was one comment that I think is contrary to a comment we had received before from urban planning from fire, which is the 2/2s in right where the in the middle of the project next to the urban park. That Muse were accessing for fire through the alley. We previously were accessing it from Century Boulevard, but it seems that that was not acceptable because we don't have a distance to the corner building. So we may need to bring that access to the central Muse in that block back to access from Garden, and we're hoping that that will work. It is again contrary to a comment we addressed from urban planning from our pre-submission meeting. So we'll work that through both parties to make sure we come up with something that serves everybody and everybody agrees with, and DOT as well, since it's because it's a public road.
Can you point out where you're talking about? Are you saying this like fire access through the open space? Are you saying that we asked you to put a fire access through the open space?
No. The fire access, we proposed fire access on all the Muse. We did, but we were accessing right at the intersection of Garden Street and Public Street. I can't point. Can somebody point?
It's this.
There's a Muse of 2/2s.
Where you're talking about where the 60-foot turnarounds are.
Philip, to
Right.
what I just pointed out, check.
Yeah,
So the Muse of 2/2s that has a 20-foot fire lane in between it with the green
yeah,
that only is in front of the bottom 2 units.
yeah.
We used to have that fire access from Garden,
Uh-huh.
and we may need to put it back to Garden because of a comment we got from fire. Again, we're not saying that we're moving it back. We're saying that we're going to explore everything to address fire's concern.
Right.
But, and then we'll have a conversation back and forth of where we access that Muse for fire.
Yeah.
Inez, we appreciate that. I think the root of our comments from the urban design team, as we shared earlier, was that we would minimize overlap between fire department access lanes and open space as much as possible. I know some areas cannot be avoided altogether, which is what we would like ideally. But if it has to happen, let's just minimize it as much as possible. Also to avoid conflict with pedestrian circulation. So that's the other thing. Whenever we have curb cuts to access this Muse is one additional conflict point with the circulation path, the sidewalks or the curb. So that's our intent, and that's what's reflected in our comments. If you do have to have overlap, then we're going to be talking with you about materials, colors, patterns, anything that we can do from a design perspective to, I guess, to add aesthetics to it and to make it as functional from an amenity standpoint as possible.
Understood. We'll get very smart about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, time's slipping away here. So we had a couple other kind of relatively quick things. The sidewalks in between the sticks of units in most places were 4 feet. We got a comment that you want 6 feet everywhere. We had just had 4 because these are little connectors. We wanted to maintain green space and not create more imperviousness, but we can certainly do the 6 feet if we need to, but we just wanted to explain why we had 4 in some areas.
Where are the 4 exactly?
Like for instance,
Between the townhouse sticks.
yeah,
Going up and down on the right side of the screen in between townhouse sticks.
Yes, so that comment was made by me, and our standard is 6 feet, so we prefer 6 feet. Of course, if there's areas where you think that you need to minimize presence of sidewalk, then we can work those out, and we can work together to identify those areas.
Okay,
Great.
so we can have a separate conversation on that.
All right.
There was a comment about building truncation up at Century and Dorsey Mill. Is that where it was, Ines and Kevin?
Yeah,
And we
did
do have
a
the building.
building, so we weren't sure if it was a general comment or if there was something that we were missing.
That's an MCDOT comment. So.
Can you show us that you, so I think that you requested an abandonment? Correct? Okay, we
Well,
weren't
yeah,
sure.
I mean, just because the right of way that has already been granted is wider than what the county currently requires. So we were just trying to clean that up.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that when you guys came in originally and we were talking about fixing it and cleaning it up, and you can go through the abandonment process. I think we just needed to see where you were proposing to abandon. So I need an
Yeah,
exhibit
we
if
did.
you can
We saw
submit
that comment that we need to be more clear. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
And
that,
so we're not gonna.
we do have that exhibit in the sketch plan set.
Okay.
We'll make sure it makes it into the DOT package.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're not abandoning sidewalks and tree lawns. Right?
Well, there is, and that was another comment. So there is some portion of the shared use path that would extend beyond the dedication line.
We can't abandon right away that's being used. So that's just a non-starter. So we can abandon like a foot behind or 2 feet behind the shared use path. We can abandon up to that point, but that's what we can do.
Well, I think, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the comment that, isn't the shared use path going to go beyond even what has already been contemplated to be dedicated?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
And so there was a comment that we needed to dedicate even more, and I think that's where we're getting hung up.
Well, there's no exhibit, so, and I don't think Brenda saw one if there was. So if you can just make it clear, and then we can take a look at it.
Okay.
But again, we can't abandon right away that we're actually using a sidewalk for or public space for. So
Understood. Yeah. The other comment, this park and ride lot that goes back to the sketch plan, I had back and forth with someone over at DOT. It wasn't you, Rebecca, I don't think, who had been in charge of the study that was supposed to be happening as to whether the park and ride was required. So, that was, the planning board had put on a 3-year period for that study. It's now been 7 years since that date. This is something we just can't, I mean, we're going to bring this to the board if we have to. We need more specifics or to move on.
okay. I will talk to I will talk to, because I did talk to Phil, who's the head of transit, and he said yes, but like, what are the chances of us building something? I don't know. I do know that it is still needed up in this area. I don't know that we have any. I think we have a few spaces that we didn't realize, so I'm not sure if it's still really needed.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that.
And just in consideration as the whole project comes together, if this is the right place for the park and ride too, because it definitely would impact the project as a whole.
Right, but it was planned so it was on this parcel AA that's not included. So I don't understand.
It's in the preliminary plan, but not on the site plan. It's included in the preliminary plan.
Rebecca, was it shown previously as part of structured parking in this portion of the property?
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. The proposal does not include structured parking, does it?
Well, they're not changing this is site plan, so.
Right.
I think that we want to reserve the right to at least, I want to at least talk to somebody about it before I make a decision.
Okay.
We'll follow up.
The last thing we had on our list was the architecture comments that were quite extensive. I know that we're evaluating the comments on the exterior elevations and seeing, Ines, we can probably accommodate most of those. Where we I'm going to be honest, I was kind of floored that there were comments on the interior layout of and where the living room should be. I mean, that's something that obviously they can consider, but I want to be clear for both this applicant, future applicants, that the site plan technically is not supposed to extend into interior layouts. So we will, take this under advisement, but I want to be clear that there's going to have to be a line there somewhere where we're not going to be going back and forth on where the bathrooms and the units are.
Yeah, Aaron, this is a tool. So the comments came from our team, and these are comments we've also shared on other projects with Ines, for example. And the point here, the broader point, and maybe this can help you all come to some strategies that can suffice for addressing our comments, is that particularly on the 2/2s, the biplexes, there's a couple of things happening here. One, that the fronts of these buildings, because of the vertical circulation that's needed to get up to the upper units, are mostly staircases and a doorway into the units, which are both important things. But as a result of that, on the ground floor, there's not a living room, there's not even an office in most floor plans. So that's for us, that's a accepted point of concern, that there's no really living spaces on the ground floors. And then because of the nature of the units, the upper units have their living rooms and kitchens and all those public spaces also turned away from the street. So they're looking into the alleys. And because of the density you're trying to achieve, the alleys are very, very narrow. They're 20 feet building to building, best we can tell. So you have living spaces for units looking directly into essentially service areas and 20 feet across from another person's living room. So our comment, I want to just make sure this is clear and you can sort of hear this from the horse's mouth, is not to tell you how to design a floor plan, but see how we can make more public elements of these buildings front onto the primary streets and away from services. Now, not all these comments are going to be achievable, but I think Inez, in working on the other project with you, you guys were able to come up with some solutions that met us halfway and sort of were creative, but did not completely rework your floor plans. So we're hoping we can do something similar here and thread the needle.
So Atul, thank you for mentioning that. Actually, I did get in trouble with Aaron because I mentioned that we had worked through a lot of these issues on other projects. So I do think we're going to work with you guys. But I definitely don't want to be the person for the development community that's setting a precedent that is hurting other people. And mostly my concern is hurting affordability and variations of product, because we're accommodating some of these. So for this particular project, I do want to say we're going to make an effort like we did before. Yeah. But I did share Aaron's concern about making this a new normal. And if we're doing, I get this from agencies a lot of times where we're doing this, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be able to do this as they come in. I think that would be our answer here, is we're going to try, but I would hope that you're not requesting this from everybody, because other people may not be able to do that and preserve their affordability.
No, we appreciate that, Inez. And I think one thing I will mention is that these biplex units that have a complete front back flip between the units is a new building type in the county. We haven't seen this before, so we are well within reason to comment on that because of the reasons that I just shared. And I'll also say that just how you all are trying to maximize your flexibility and density, we're also being very flexible. In particular, I'll just use a concrete example here. If you do a very strict interpretation of the code, you should not really be having fire access vehicles in these open spaces, and they're all over this plan. And we are trying to work with you all because we understand that that is something that the way the plan has evolved is become a necessity at this point. So just stating that that flexibility kind of hopefully comes from both directions, and the the comments about the precedent, I get it, but this is also a new building type that we haven't seen a whole lot of in the county. So Aaron, that's why we don't make these comments when we have 2/2s where the living rooms are all where they traditionally have been, which are in the front of the building. So just sharing that, I think we can get to some solutions here, but that thread the needle.
Yeah, no,
We'll
I
take that
appreciate that.
conversation on.
That I think, and your point is well taken. Maybe the way we frame our comments moving forward is tied to activation. Because we have always made comments about street activation and how to have eyes on the public open spaces and safety through design, environmental site design. So I think some of these comments that we're making maybe could be better framed in the context of activation, which is something that we always make comments on and we always are concerned about. Whether it's multifamily buildings, whether it's commercial buildings, it's how do you activate the street? By providing windows as well as the uses that are happening behind those windows. So we will definitely take your feedback into account as we move forward and continue to make similar comments, may not be the same ones.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think I'm hearing you and you're hearing me. You know, we just don't want to have people start designing the interior of the buildings. I understand what you're saying about the activation and about this being a new type of unit, and that's well taken. But yeah, it's as always, it's a little bit of push and pull with all of this stuff. So
we look forward to working with you guys.
Same.
Yep, same. And I think our time's up, but I think that's all we had to cover unless anyone else on the team or staff has anything else we want to discuss today.
One more thing we wanted to add, still related to the architectural comments. We had given feedback on the public benefit points that you were requesting, and we were suggesting that instead of getting public benefit points for exceptional design, we would much rather give you those points towards architectural elevations, which kind of goes in line with the feedback and suggestions that we were giving you on the architectural elevations. So I think all in all, we are good. We're on the same page. It's just a small adjustment to your requested public benefit points.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
And on those elevations, I have two elements that we need to discuss, but we can have that conversation offline, like we did for the other project where we bring the architect in. It's very minor, but all the other comments we can accommodate. It's just the windows in the gables on the roof.
Totally fine.
They're actually active windows, so we don't want to delete those. And just the entry to the buried units. Also, that one needs to step out in the front, but we'll go through that as we look at the plans in more detail with the architect.
That sounds excellent. We look forward to working with you on those.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Could I just,
go ahead.
Right. I was just wondering about the comments from Historic Preservation about the parcel boundaries in the preliminary plan, wanting more of the buffer of the cemetery to be incorporated in the parcel. Maybe I missed the boat on asking about that.
Ryan, just we were thinking, as you know, how the parcel is extending towards Waters Walk.
Yeah.
Were you thinking bringing it around? And we just need to do some just feedback, just that amount, and we can bring that back and forth in a sketch.
Something like that. It's just that having the parcel line right along the fence line made me a little concerned about how permanent we've talked a lot about sort of buffering around the cemetery, but if it's in a separate parcel, does that put that at risk down the road?
Understood.
That's
we actually didn't have a concern with your comment. It seemed quite reasonable for what you just explained. So we'll go ahead and sketch some things and send it back and forth.
Okay, that's great. I just want
and
to
then also we'll be working with you to get a package to hopefully get to the Historic Preservation Commission. I believe it's the meeting of the 17th.
Great.
If it's possible. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Our
Okay.
time is up, and I know I'm
Thank you.
taking a lot of staff's time, so I won't take it now.